You haven't seen Michael in years, right? Surely, you'll renounce any inheritance?
One day, a phone call came to our home. The voice on the other end mocked us, and I couldn't contain my anger. I grabbed the receiver from my granddaughter, who had been handling the call.
Listen here. We won't renounce any inheritance. Don't you dare speak nonsense. This child is.
I, Nancy, aged 63, have been living with my husband James and our son Michael. Since getting married and having a child, I started working part-time, and I continue to do so. James has led a straightforward life as an office worker, and he was an ordinary man in both good and bad ways. He is 2 years older than me, but his gentle nature and the inexplicable charm that made it impossible to ignore drew me to marry him. After Michael was born, James became a doting father, spending weekends playing with Michael and taking him out. Our son Michael has always been sociable, diligent, and excels in academics. He's an all-around talent, both in sports and studies. In a positive sense, he's such an outstanding student that it's almost mysterious why a child like him was born to us. He's also quite good-looking, and apparently popular among women. After graduating from college, Michael left home and independently started and managed an IT-related company at a young age. Both James and I are incredibly proud of Michael. He's our pride and joy. As time passed, when Michael turned 28, we received news that he had married a woman named Sophia and they had started living together. Since Michael had left home and become independent, he rarely contacted us, perhaps due to his busy work schedule. However, he hadn't mentioned anything about being in a relationship with this woman until now. To our surprise, he reached out after a long time, sharing both the news of his marriage and the birth of their child. Given his position as a company executive, it's understandable that he leads a hectic life. Despite our initial apprehensions about Sophia, she turned out to be a wonderful person. Despite being 7 years younger than Michael, she was remarkably mature and quickly became comfortable with our family. Sophia frequently visited our home, bringing their daughter Emma along. Understanding Michael's busy schedule, she took it upon herself to keep us updated with photos of Emma's growth, a clear sign that she genuinely cared about Emma's happiness. Seeing Sophia's dedication to supporting our son while wholeheartedly caring for their child, we felt joy and pride. Simultaneously, we resolved to assist our son and daughter-in-law whenever needed. Although Michael's income made financial difficulties unlikely, we wanted to lighten their burden if any unforeseen circumstances arose. One fateful day, tragedy struck my son's family. It was Emma's 6th birthday, and Michael happened to have a day off. Taking advantage of the opportunity, they planned a family trip and booked a cozy resort hotel. However, during their journey, they were involved in a terrible car accident. While driving on the highway, a large truck rear-ended their vehicle. Michael sustained severe injuries and required 6 months of recovery. Sophia, on the other hand, was critically injured and unconscious when she was transported to the hospital. Sadly, despite all efforts, she passed away. Fortunately, Emma escaped with minor injuries. Upon investigating the accident, we learned that Sophia had instinctively shielded Emma during the impact. Thanks to her selfless act, Emma remained safe, but she lost her mother. Since Michael was still hospitalized and unable to fulfill the role of chief mourner, we conducted Sophia's funeral on his behalf. Emma struggled to accept the sudden and permanent separation from her mother, tearfully standing before Sophia's casket. Emma's emotional wounds run deep, and we must help her heal. James and I discussed Emma's future. Given Michael's prolonged hospitalization and rehabilitation, and with Sophia no longer with us, we decided to care for Emma during this difficult time. Of course, I had already discussed Emma's situation with Michael in advance, and he had given his consent.
I'm entrusting Emma to you.
Emma, Dad will be in the hospital for a while and won't be able to take care of you. So during this time, Grandma and Grandpa will look after you. Is that okay? Emma, shocked by losing her mother and facing an unexpected new life, was bewildered. However, my husband James and I wholeheartedly took care of Emma. Whenever James had a day off, we tried to spend time together as a family. On other days, we made sure to communicate with Emma, ensuring she didn't feel lonely. Our efforts paid off, and Emma gradually adapted to our life, slowly healing the emotional wounds from losing her mother. As time passed since the accident, Michael's condition stabilized to some extent. He returned to work early, eager to make up for the work he missed during his hospitalization. However, Emma remained with us. I wondered how long Michael intended to keep his child with us, especially since she would soon start elementary school. But considering that Michael's role as a company executive involved responsibilities beyond our understanding, we interpreted his actions favorably. Now, I had decided to document Emma's growth, just as the late Sophia had done for us, by taking photos and sending them via email. However, Michael never responded. For us, Emma is undoubtedly our granddaughter. Emma's father is Michael. I believed that he should be aware of Emma's future. Frustrated by his lack of communication, I sent him a straightforward email. Michael, I'd like to discuss Emma's elementary school enrollment. Could you visit us at home? If you're too busy, I can come to your place. Shortly afterward, Michael called me. I confronted him. Michael, you can't keep ignoring Emma. Yes, work might be demanding, but don't you realize your responsibilities as a father? Emma has missed you terribly since she hasn't seen you in so long. Michael's response shocked me.
Mom, there's something I need to tell you. Please continue raising Emma as if she were your own. You see, I can't handle parenting. It's impossible. Besides, I have a new girlfriend now, and having Emma around would be inconvenient. And honestly, from the beginning, I never felt any affection for Emma. She's not even Sophia's biological child.
I was utterly stunned by his shocking revelation. No affection for Emma? Not Sophia's child? What on earth was going on? Wait a minute, what exactly are you saying? What have you done? Explain. I demanded. Michael's response hit me like a ton of bricks.
Emma is the child of a woman I was dating around the same time before I married Sophia.
You. Sophia was such a kind person, and you did something like that?
I couldn't believe it. Michael, always well-liked, diligent since his student days, and excelling in his professional life, had blindsided us. We never imagined he'd be involved in such a messy situation. True, he had his share of admirers, but the idea that Michael would engage in such reckless behavior.
And this woman was interested in me.
He continued.
But I felt we weren't compatible for marriage. Still, I didn't want to completely cut ties, so we maintained a casual relationship. Then, somehow, she became pregnant with Emma. She demanded that I acknowledge the baby and break off my engagement with Sophia.
Michael's revelations shattered my heart. Surely, he had hurt many other women along the way. As a woman myself, anger toward our own child began to build.
I had rejected everything, but that woman went ahead and gave birth to Emma without my consent, and then she took her own life, leaving her child behind and selfishly departing.
You. You're not kidding, are you? You drove someone to suicide, and yet you think you're blameless? That's absurd. Clearly, you're the one at fault.
My anger flared up at Michael's heartless behavior. The revelation left me dumbfounded. Sophia, who had loved Emma unconditionally despite not being her biological mother and the birth mother of Emma, whom I've never even seen. And now, my own son has caused immense trouble.
What must Emma be feeling? How did Sophia raise her with such love?
I wondered aloud.
You can't possibly understand. I never imagined my own son would turn out to be such a disgrace. Do you think we'll entrust you with Emma? We'll take care of her.
Michael's response was callous.
Enough with the nagging. It's none of your business how I've been involved with women in the past, right? Anyway, I have no intention of raising Emma anymore. I already have a new girlfriend, and we're getting along just fine. So, let Emma be taken care of on that side.
As I listened more closely, I could hear laughter in the background, probably from the woman he was with. Just hearing her laugh while discussing such matters made me suspect she wasn't a good person. And Michael, choosing someone like her, seemed to drift through relationships without discernment. I sighed internally.
Even if I think it's futile, I'll offer one piece of advice. Being careless in relationships with women will only lead to trouble eventually.
Michael's dismissive reply came swiftly.
Sure. Thanks for your concern. Goodbye.
Clearly, he found further conversation with me bothersome. Michael hung up with an air of resignation.
Grandma, why were you so upset?
I hugged Emma, holding back tears as I explained. Emma, your father seems to be very busy with work, and he can't take care of you alone. So, you'll continue living with us. I'm truly sorry. I lied. I couldn't possibly tell Emma that her father had abandoned her. She looked at me with concern, and I continued. You know, Emma, Grandma and Grandpa love having you here. We're happy to take care of you. Her expression showed a hint of sadness, but she accepted my words. Afterward, I consulted a friend who was a lawyer about the situation. We discussed various options, and it was decided that Emma would be formally adopted through legal guardianship. This would be better than leaving her in a state of indefinite custody. Additionally, for Emma's future, I filed for child support from Michael through the lawyer. I knew that direct requests from me would likely be ignored, so involving a lawyer seemed more effective. Surprisingly, Michael accepted the child support claim without much resistance. Initially, he had hesitated, but he realized it was better to comply promptly rather than prolong the dispute. However, after the first few months of consistent payments, he stopped altogether. Despite several follow-up requests, there was no response, and I eventually gave up. As time passed, Emma turned 18 years old. I had decided that once Emma became an adult, I would reveal something I had kept hidden all these years. However, since Emma's university entrance exams were approaching, I waited until those were over. With the exams successfully completed and only the results pending, I finally disclosed the truth to Emma about what her father had told me. Emma was shocked. Even though it happened when she was young, the fact that I had kept this secret from her hit her hard. She learned that her biological mother was someone else entirely, and Sophia had been her nurturing mother. On the day I revealed this, Emma was so overwhelmed that she retreated to her room. But the next day, she approached my husband and me with a determined expression.
Grandma, if you had told me the truth when I was little, I might not have handled it well. But I understand now that you were trying to protect me. I may not know what kind of person gave birth to me, but those who raised me until now were my late mother and my grandparents. So even if my father abandoned me, I don't feel any sadness. I've realized that.
My husband and I cried tears of joy. And in my heart, I silently reported to Sophia in heaven. Your daughter has grown into an admirable young woman. A few days passed, and then one day, the home phone rang. Emma answered the call. I noticed her tense expression immediately, so I moved closer to eavesdrop. The caller identified herself as Michael's wife, The same woman whose voice I had heard during my last conversation with Michael. Emma's shock was palpable.
Emma, you're Michael's child, right? I'm Michael's wife. You haven't seen him since then, have you?
Yes, that's correct.
Exactly. Now, here's the main point. Michael passed away recently.
What? Is that true?
Both Emma and I were taken aback. Despite the lack of communication, I never expected Michael to be gone. Strangely, his wife didn't sound particularly sad, despite being his spouse.
Anyway, you haven't seen Michael in ages, and you've been living with your grandparents, right? So, you're practically strangers with Michael now. Considering that, you won't be inheriting anything, will you? Besides, it's not like you deserve any inheritance as a stranger.
Listening to their conversation, I realized that Michael's wife had married him for financial gain. Michael was no saint either, but to end up with a woman like this as his last spouse was beyond belief. My anger was reaching its breaking point.
Inheritance?
Overwhelmed by the woman's forceful words, Emma faltered. I snatched the receiver from her hand.
Hello? This is Emma's grandmother. I've been listening, and who do you think you are? You're after money, aren't you? Well, we won't renounce any inheritance.
I shouted at the woman, my anger boiling over. I hung up the phone. I couldn't let someone like her have her way. Emma looked at me, still a bit frightened. I'm sorry, Emma, but sometimes we need to stand up firmly to people like that. We'll handle this, so watch and learn. Later, I consulted my friend, the lawyer, again. As it turned out, Emma's adoption was a regular adoption, which meant her legal relationship with Michael remained intact. Initially, I had considered severing all ties with her father, but my friend advised against it. If Emma completely cut ties with Michael, she'd lose her right to inherit anything if something unfortunate happened to him. So, we opted for a regular adoption that maintained their legal connection. Through the lawyer, I made a statement to Michael's wife that Emma would not renounce her inheritance, and we demanded the unpaid child support that Michael had failed to pay. The unpaid child support amounted to a substantial sum, around $100,000. Michael's wife couldn't afford it, even with the inheritance she received. To settle the debt, she sold her house, and her subsequent whereabouts remained unknown. Rumor had it she was living quietly in some apartment. One day, Emma treated my husband and me to dinner using the money she had saved from her part-time job.
It's not much, but it's my way of expressing gratitude to you two who raised me.
For me, her words meant more than the dinner itself. I felt immense gratitude toward Sophia, who had lovingly nurtured Emma despite their lack of blood relation. Sophia's legacy lived on, and we continued to live happily with Emma.
How did you find this story? If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing to our channel. Until next time.